everyone, welcome back to today's video. For today I'm going to be making this cute little birthday card. Now this card is definitely something different from what I usually do because it's really based around the shapes and things that we're going to be cutting out using the Big Shot. There's not a ton of stamping in this card. It's really all about creating this background with the different papers and the different shapes. So I'm super excited for this one. It's definitely something, like I said, that I'm not used to doing. So I stepped outside my comfort zone a little bit and this is what I came up with. So for this card, we are going to need, actually I'll start with ink. We're going to need 3 different colors of ink. So we're going to be using Soft Sky, our Craft Whisper White ink, and Pacific Point. Like I said, there's not a ton of stamping, but the stamping definitely brings this card all together. We're also going to be using 2 stamp sets. The first one is the Always an Adventure, and really the star of the show is the Outdoor Adventure framelits. Like I said, a lot of what we're going to be using to create this card has to do with what we're cutting out using the framelits. So it is definitely an important part of this card. And then we're going to be using a couple of the images from the Always an Adventure stamp set to enhance our little scene that we're going to create. Because there aren't actually any sentiments in the Always an Adventure stamp set, I'm going to be using this Guy's Greetings, and I'm going to use this Happy Birthday here. This has a ton of different greetings in it that you can use. I just really like the font style here, and I think it goes well with our kind of rugged outdoor card, so that's what I chose to use, but you could use any greeting that you wanted to. And then the star of the show, our paper that we're going to be using. So we're going to use 2 pieces of Emerald Envy, and this one is cut at 4 1/4 by 2 3/4. This one is cut at 4 1/4 by 3 1/4. We then have a piece of Smoky Slate, and this is cut at 4 1/4 by 5 inches. I have just a scrap of Whisper White. There's no real dimension for this. We're going to be using it to cut out a couple of images, so just a scrap. And then our card base is a piece of Soft Sky, which is cut at 8 1/2 by 5 1/2. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I said, the star of this card is really our framelit dies. It's definitely a card that we've created using the paper and not necessarily the images that we're stamping. So we're going to be using these 4 framelit shapes from the set. We have our little mountains here, our little trees. This is going to be the tent, and then this little funny looking guy is the tops of our mountains. So I'm going to take the top of the mountain and the tent, and I'm going to set those off to the side. And I'm actually going to set the trees off to the side as well. I'm going to bring in my Big Shot. And slide that over there. It's easier for me to work on this side because I'm left-handed. So I'm going to start off by taking our piece of Smoky Slate, and I'm going to put our little mountains right at the top. You want the top of this, the largest mountain, which is this one right here, to just almost touch the top of our paper. Just like that. And then you just want to line it up and make sure that this is pretty much straight across. I'm going to put a piece of washi just to make sure that it doesn't slip and slide anywhere. And if I could put the top plate on correctly, that would help as well. And I'm going to crank this through. And take this off. I find you only need to crank it through once. And then when you remove it, you have our little mountains. So there's one piece down. That's the only thing we're going to use our little mountain dies for because we're only going to do 1 set of mountains. Then we're going to bring in our pieces of Emerald Envy, and it doesn't matter which one you start with because we're going to do the same thing with both of them. You're going to put it down, and where did this guy go? Take our little trees, and again, the tallest tree, which is this one right here, you're going to make sure that that lines up and just barely touches the top of the paper. And the framelit should hang off just slightly on either side. It's really not even that much to be noticeable, but you just want to make sure that you're cutting all the way through. And take that and crank it through. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with our other piece of Emerald Envy. So take our little framelit here, line it up with the top of our piece of paper, stick it down, and slide it through. Okay. So I'm going to move my Big Shot out of the way, and I actually need to rearrange some stuff because I was throwing stuff all over the place and now I'm dropping framelits and it's just getting crazy. Okay, so the pieces that we have so far, we should have one little tree family, if that's what you want to call it, a second little tree family that's just slightly taller, and we have our mountains. And I actually shouldn't have moved the Big Shot yet because I'm going to need that again, but it's okay. So these are our three pieces that we should have so far. They don't look like much right now, but I promise they will turn into something. So I'm going to take these and set those off to the side. Now we're going to bring in our piece of Whisper White, and I'm going to take my Pacific Point ink and the little tent stamp that we have, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this on our piece of Whisper White. Get that nice and inked up, and it doesn't really matter where you stamp it. Again, this is really just a scrap piece of paper, so it doesn't need to be anywhere in particular. We're going to cut it out with a framelit anyways, so it's not a big deal where it goes. And I'm going to bring back over my Big Shot. Uh-oh. I need to grab that piece of paper. There we go. Bring back over my Big Shot. Slide this through. And now what we're going to do is use those other two framelits that we set aside. So this little guy is the top of our mountain, mountain peaks, and we need 6 of those. So I'm going to set that right there because we're going to have to run this through a few times. We only need 1 tent, so I'm just going to take this and line it up. That looks good to me. Put down a piece of washi. Put down my top plate. Crank this through. Whoops. Just like that. And now we have our little tent and one of the peaks of our little mountains. So like I said, we need 6 of these, so I'm going to go ahead and crank out the other 5, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now we have pretty much everything ready to go. We just have to assemble it all. So our little trees, we don't need those right this second, and we don't really need our tent right this second either. We're going to focus on our mountains. So all I'm going to do is take some liquid glue. You could use whatever glue you had. I just think that liquid glue makes it a little bit easier to do. And I'm just going to take this and just put a little dollop of glue on the top of each of my little mountains. And the reason that I like using this liquid glue is that it stays wet for a good amount of time. And it also dries clear, so if you goof like I did right there and put too much glue, you won't be able to see it when everything's done. And all I'm going to do is take my little mountain peak, my little snow peaks, and I'm going to put them onto my little mountains. So I'm going to put all 6 of these on really fast, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now our little mountains are done, and we're going to set this off to dry. The next thing that we want to do is take our little trees, and you have one that's a little bit taller and one that's a little bit shorter. We're going to use the one that's a little bit shorter, and we're going to grab our craft ink pad and our little happy birthday sentiment from the guide greetings. Again, you can use whatever sentiment you want to. I just really like this one. I like the font in it, and I think it goes well since this is more of a masculine card. And right down here under the trees, I'm just going to stamp our little happy birthday. Just like that. With the craft ink, you want to let that dry for a second, or you can zap it with your heat tool, but you definitely just want to make sure that you give it a second to dry, since the ink does take a little bit longer to set. So I'm going to just set that off to the side. And now we're going to start to assemble our card. So like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of stamping. It was really just what we're cutting out with the Big Shot. So I'm going to take our little card base here. And again, this is in Soft Sky. I'm going to fold this in half. And then I'm going to take our little mountains, grab my adhesive, which was somewhere, here it is. Grab my adhesive, and I'm going to put adhesive, our snail adhesive, on three sides and then right under the mountains, just like that. And then I'm going to grab that liquid glue again, and I'm just going to put a little bit on each mountain peak just to make sure that they stay on there really well. We don't want those little mountains popping up off of our card, so that just really helps to make sure that it'll stay nice and secure. Then what we're going to do is take this bottom edge down here and just match it up with the bottom edge of your card base. These are cut to be the exact same size, so it's going to be flush with your card base. Everything should line up perfectly, just like that. So now that we have our mountains on here, we can add our little clouds. And the reason I like to do this step first is so that you're not stamping a bunch of clouds that you're never going to see. So now that we know where there's some sky up here, we can go ahead and take our Soft Sky ink and our two little cloud stamps. And I just do like 2 or 3 of each size. And it's really up to you, whatever you prefer, whatever you think looks good. I'm going to fold this and do one of these little ones off to the side a little bit, one right there, maybe one right there, and that looks good to me. And that's all you need the Soft Sky ink for. So if you don't have Soft Sky ink and you don't want to put the clouds up there, just don't do it. Actually, I think I'm going to put another little one right there. Okay, now I'm happy. Whoa, now I'm throwing ink pads. Like I said, you don't have to do that step of it, but I really think that the clouds add a little something and it completes the whole scene. So I recommend putting them on there, but if you don't have the ink and if you don't like them, don't do it. Okay, so now we're going to assemble everything else. So we have our 2 little trees. The one that has Happy Birthday, we're going to leave that set for just one more second. And we're going to take the other one and we're going to put our trees to the left-hand side of the card. So you'll have to flip it from when you initially cut it out. And you want your trees to be on the left-hand side. Just like we did with our mountains, I'm going to put snail on 4 sides of this piece on the large part, and then I'm going to take my liquid glue and just put a little bit of liquid glue on the trees just to make sure that they don't budge and move anywhere. And again, this all is cut to line up perfectly. So you just want to line up the bottom edge and the sides and make everything flush. Just like that. Then the piece de resistance. Not really. It's just the part with the sentiment. We're going to grab some dimensionals, and I just had some somewhere, but my desk is an absolute mess right now because I'm filming a bunch of videos right now, and I still have all of my holiday catalog pre-order stuff all around because I want to start playing with some products. Anyways, found my dimensionals. We're going to flip this over, and we're going to put, I think I did 6 dimensionals. So we'll see. Do one right there, and then a couple right in the center. And then I always have a sheet of the little side bits. So I'm just going to cut up a couple of little tiny guys to put on the trees themselves, just so that they have that dimension too and they don't look like they're sagging or like they don't belong. You want to make sure that the little trees pop up too. And I would try to get them in as close to being in the center of your tree as possible, but sometimes it's not possible. So, okay, move all of my dimensionals out of the way. Take off all of the backings. phone's going off. Sorry, guys. Oh, I already grabbed that one. And this one. Okie dokie. And then again, everything is flush. Everything is the same size. So you're just going to line it up and stick it down just like that. And because we have the, because we use the dimensionals, that layer kind of pops up and it looks really, really nice. So the last part is to add our little tent. So what I did when I added the tent is I put it kind of up towards the top, just like that. But this part up here kind of hangs off. So I'm going to take this little dimensional and I'm going to stick it right at the top. And then down here on the bottom, I'm going to put some snail, just to make sure that it sticks really well. Okay, and take that little dimensional off. And this way it's completely secure, but you kind of have it hanging off where that dimensional part is. So, oops. So it looks pretty cool. Stick it down just like that. And there's our card for today, guys. I really hope you enjoy. I really tried to kind of think outside the box with this one and use some of the products that I haven't used yet in the annual catalog that I bought. So I really hope you guys like this one. If you like this card, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe, leave me a comment, head over to my website. If you guys haven't already received a holiday catalog, everybody that has requested one or that got an annual catalog from me should have already received theirs. So if you haven't received yours yet and you want one, please go over to my website, use the contact me section, and send me a message and I'll make sure I get one right out to you. But other than that, I hope you guys are having a great day and I will see you next time. Bye!